A warm welcome back into the course Thermodynamics. Today we are going to begin with lecture 3 from the course, but make sure you watch the previous ones before viewing this one. So far in this course, we've had an understanding what is thermodynamics, and then we started learning a few terms that we use in the course of learning thermodynamics, but these are just not terms that you are learning. You are actually learning a lot of thermodynamics in this understanding of these terms as well. So what have we learned so far? Well, we have learned what is a system, what are surroundings, and what are boundaries, and various types of systems and boundaries. That was in lecture number 1. And in the last lecture, we learned what are the properties of a thermodynamic system, where we learned about the extensive and the intensive properties. So moving further, today we are going to start the learning of what a state of a system means. Now, when I say state of a system, what does it think that comes into your mind? Well, you all just now studied in the previous course about the states of matter. So I'm sure you are going to think that when I say state of a system, it is going to mean, well, that the system is a gas, a solid, or a liquid. Well, no, it is not what I mean by a state of a system. Giving you an example, well, if I talk about the human life, we can say that the human life, it is into 3 stages: a child, then an adult, and then old age. And if we just define the boundaries of these, well, we will be saying a child is up to the age of 18 when the adulthood starts, and then from 18 to 60 when general retirement age is, and after that we say that it is old age. So there may be a slight variation into the concept, whatever we may say, but generally we broadly classify the human life into 3 stages, right? The child, the adult, and the old age. Now, I give you an example of my children. I have 2 children. Okay, so how do I differentiate my 2 children? I just have said that they are children. Okay, so they have been put into one category, but I want to tell you more about my children. How would I tell about them? Well, I would be telling you about that one is a girl, one is a boy, one is in an engineering college, and the other is in class 12, and so on. I can tell you so much things about my children, and the more I'm telling you, I am explaining you a lot about my children. Similarly, if I just put this example for a liquid, okay, I have 2 glasses full of water, right? So you would say that these two, they are the same system, just like I have 2 children, so they are 2 children, right? But the moment I tell you that my glass of water, one is at a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius and the other is at a temperature of 90 degrees Celsius. Now, are these two the same system? No, they are not. One is cold water, one is hot water. So this is actually where we are going to differentiate state of a system. We are going to define certain parameters for a system which is going to tell us what condition a system is in it. So we are going to learn a lot more about the state of a system today, and in this learning we are going to learn about state variables, what do they mean, and then we will be learning what is a state function, what is a path function. And then one more term that I will be discussing today with you people, just the definition part of it, and that is going to be what is thermodynamic equilibrium. So it's going to be an interesting discussion, and I hope you're going to enjoy it with me. I'm Dr. Ritu Johar, your educator from the channel H2O, the A to Z of chemistry. So let us begin the learning today. So first of all, let us define now what is the state of a system. So state of a system is the condition in which the system is present when the macroscopic properties, they have a definite value. Just like when we have 2 glasses of water, we want to tell about their state, the state in which water is present, by telling the temperature of water. Right, so this is at 10 degrees Celsius, this is at 90 degrees Celsius. So I have told you the condition in which water is present by telling about temperature, and temperature, this is a macroscopic property. All right, so what this means is that whenever we have to specify or define the state of a system, we are going to measure or specify some measurable properties of that system, like we can measure the pressure, the volume, the temperature, its amount, elasticity, heat capacity, etc. And from that we will be coming to know what state the system is present in, what is the condition of that system. All right, so for example, if we have an ideal gas system, we can tell more about that gas. Okay, so all we have gases, but we want to tell more about that gas. So how will we tell more about that gas? We have to tell its condition. So condition we will be telling by specifying its volume, temperature, pressure, and these measurable properties, they will be called as state variables. All right, so similarly, it is not going to be essential that for every system you have to tell its state by just specifying temperature, pressure, and volume. For example, if I have a rubber pipe, okay, and I have a plastic pipe, so how do I tell or this which one is going to be a rubber pipe or which one is going to be a plastic pipe? Well, the one which is going to be more elastic is going to be a rubber pipe, and which is going to be less elastic is going to be a plastic pipe. So here I am telling about my two systems, a rubber and a plastic pipe, by specifying what property? Its elasticity. Okay, so it is not essential that every time a system is going to be defined by only pressure, volume, and temperature. No, we have different types of properties to tell about a particular system. We have to specify those properties related to it. Just like if I have my two children and I have to tell which one of them is better in academics. Okay, so I will be saying that this child is getting more marks, and this child is very good in maths, the other child is good in English. So I have to tell about those things. But if I have to talk about my child's extracurricular activities, I will not be telling how good he is in maths or English. I will be telling more that yes, my child is good in drawing, or my child is good in painting, etc. So whatever things you want to tell about a system, that type of properties you will have to specify. Okay, so now a system is undergoing a change in state. When will it undergo a change in state? Then it is going to be that one or more of the macroscopic properties, they are going to change. So whenever we have a state of a system, we have a definite value of the macroscopic properties. If we change that macroscopic property, there is going to be a change in the state. For example, I had this glass of water. It was at a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius. So it was cold water. I heated it to a temperature of 90 degrees Celsius, right? So I have changed the temperature of my system. Now the state of my system has changed. It was cold earlier, now it has become hot. Okay, so whenever we have a system undergoing a change in state, there is always going to be change in at least one or more than one macroscopic properties. On occurrence of a process, the state of a system, this changes from an initial to a final. So a process is taking place. A process is taking place. I am heating my system. Okay, so this is also a process. So whenever there is a process taking place, there is a change in the state of the system. Okay, and the initial state is going to be the starting point from where we started the process, and whatever is the end point, we call that as the final. So 10 degrees Celsius was the starting point of my process, and 90 degree is the end point of my process. So initial to final. So whenever there's going to be a process that is occurring, the state of the system is changing from an initial state to a final state. Okay, so I hope this is also clear. Good. So let us now define what are state variables. State variables are those measurable properties which are required to describe the state of a system, just like we had the glass of water. So to describe the state of that glass of water, we had to tell its temperature, and temperature, it is a measurable property of a system. Or you can, other words, define the state variable as those macroscopic properties which when changed, they cause a change in the state of a system.
So we had a glass of water at 10 degrees Celsius. If I change the temperature of that water, well, the state of water changes. From 10 to 90, when I made, it was cold to hot water. So the state of the system, the condition of the system changed by changing the temperature, which is a macroscopic property. Okay, so I hope now it is clear what do we mean by state variables. So we have four common variables which we generally use for telling about the state of a system, that is pressure, volume, temperature and composition. And if we fix these variables, all the properties of a system, they get fixed. If the system is a homogeneous system and it is composed of a single substance, the composition of the system gets fixed. Now, what do I mean by this is, first of all, what is a homogeneous system? A homogeneous system is that system which is composed of a single phase, like we have water in the glass. So water, this can exist in all the three phases, that is the solid, the liquid and the gas. But when I am saying that I want a system to be homogeneous, it should be only in one phase. So if I am talking about this system, I just have liquid, okay? So water as a liquid, and it should also be a single substance. So I have only water. I have not added any sugar to it. I have not added any salt to it. Just one substance, and the system is homogeneous, only made up of one phase. Then the composition of the system, this gets fixed. Okay, so I have, for example, taken 500 ml of this water. It is going to be equal to 500 grams of water also, because you know that the density is 1 gram per ml. Okay, so now this is composition is fixed. What I can do is I can change the volume, the temperature, the pressure of this system, but the composition is fixed. But supposedly, if I had not taken a homogeneous system, I had taken water plus some ice in it. Okay, so now even if the total weight is 500 grams, well, the composition is not fixed. Why? Because what will happen is, when this ice is going to melt down, it is going to get converted into the liquid. The volume, this is going to change. Okay, so initially if the volume was 500, it is going to be more, obviously, because it is going to be ice. So it is going to be, say, 550 ml. So as the ice is melting down, it is always changing. So it came up to 525 ml, and then ultimately it all melt, and this came up to 500 ml. So the composition is ever changing. Okay, so we have some amount of water, we have some amount of ice, we have more amount of water, less amount of ice. So the composition of that phase keeps on changing. So whenever we have a system which is a homogeneous system, it is composed of a single substance, then its composition, this gets fixed. And when that gets fixed, well, then you have to specify only the pressure, the volume and the temperature of that system, and the work is done to tell about the state of the system. Okay. And in general, if we see about actual practice, we do not have to tell about all the three when we want to specify the state, because all these three, the pressure, volume and temperature, they are interdependent. And the relationship between these three, this is called as the equation of state. As you have studied for the gases, we have PV equal to RT. And this is for 1 mole of a gas. So if we know any two, if we know pressure and volume, we can tell about the temperature. If we know about pressure and temperature, we can tell about the volume. Okay, so this way it is going to be fixed. So the state of a single homogeneous subsystem, this can be completely defined by specifying only two of these. Okay, so when we have a simple homogeneous system, a homogeneous system, one phase and consisting of one substance only, then you need to tell only about two of the properties of the pressure, volume and temperature. And in fact, generally what we do is we specify pressure and temperature. These are called as interdependent variables, whereas the third variable, volume, this is called as a dependent variable. So generally what you will be specifying if you have to tell about the state of a system, if the composition is fixed, well, it is going to be pressure and temperature. Okay. Now, one more thing that you have to remember is that if we have a closed system, then which is consisting of one component or it is consisting of more than one component, then we are never going to consider mass as a state variable. Why? Because mass is going to be fixed in a closed system. Matter cannot get exchanged when we have a closed system. It is only the energy that gets exchanged. So you have to remember what is a closed system now that you have learned in lecture number 1. So mass in a closed system, this is fixed. If it is fixed, it is not going to change, right? So therefore mass is not a state variable. A state variable is going to be that which when changed, this is going to cause a change in the state of the system. Okay, and we have a closed system. In closed system, the mass is not going to change. So therefore you never consider that to be a state variable. Now the next we will be talking about state function and path function. Again, this is going to be important terms that you have to understand. Okay, I will give you first an example and then we will be taking up the theory part of the stuff. Okay, so for example, you are at your home and you have to go to your school. There are various roads which connect your home to school. So there are various ways you can reach from home to school. I am just talking about two of the ways. Okay, so there is one way from home to school which we will be calling as path 1, and there is another way to reach your school that we will be calling as path 2. The distance that you will be traveling when you travel by path 1 is supposedly 4 kilometers, right? And the distance that you will be traveling when you're going to go by path 2 is 3 kilometers, right? So now if you have to reach school early, which is the way that you will be choosing? Well, you will be choosing path 2 because you want to reach school early. Okay, but supposedly in between your path 1 from home to school, there is your friend's place. Your friend is not going to school and your friend has a notebook which is going to be very important for you in your school. Your teacher is going to check your homework. So what is going to be your option? Will you be going by path 2? No, you will be going by path 1 because your friend's place is in between. So you will first of all go to your friend's place. You will pick up your notebook and you will be going to school. Okay, so you are going to choose the path according to the requirement of yours, right? Now, therefore, what you can say is the distance from home to school, this depends whether you are going to travel by path 1 or you're going to travel by path 2. It is going to vary, right? It is going to be 4 kilometers if you travel by path 1. It is going to be 3 kilometers if you travel by path 2. So what this means is that between the initial point and the final point, the path that I'm choosing, distance depends upon that. And whenever the path is going to affect a property, we call that to be a path function. Okay, so distance is a path function because it is dependent upon the path that we will be choosing. But you have also studied in physics another term which is displacement. So whatever may be the distance, well, the displacement between home to school, let that be 1 kilometer. It is going to be 1 kilometer whether you travel by path 1 or you travel by path 2. So from 1 to 2, when you are going to travel by path 1, okay, from home to school, sorry, when you are going to travel by path 1, then what is going to be the displacement? It is going to be 1 kilometer. When I travel by path 2 from home to school, what is the displacement? Again 1 kilometer. So displacement was not affected by what path you had chosen. So therefore, what we call this displacement is to be a state function. So a state function is going to be that which is not dependent upon the path that you are choosing, whereas a path function depends upon the path that you will be choosing. Okay, so I hope you have a brief idea now what do we mean by a state function and a path function. So let us first of all define them and then understand more about them. Okay, so what is a state function? Well, a state function is that property of the system which depends only on the state of the system and it is independent of the path or the manner by which the state is reached. And when we state it is depends only on the state of the function, that would mean that it is only going to depend upon the initial and the final state of the system. It is not going to be bothered by what path you have chosen or what manner you reached. Okay, so for example, if you are going from home to school, whether you went by school, by a car, you went walking, it is not bothered by that. What it is bothered by is what is the displacement between home to school. Okay, so a state function is that property which depends only on the initial and the final state of the system. It will not be dependent on the path. This is one thing that you have to remember always. Okay, so if I put this diagrammatically, I have a process which is happening in chemistry. Okay, any process that is happening. Okay, so let us put that as, we have again the same example that we have water at 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, this is my point 1. This is the initial state. And from this I have to reach to point 2, that is 90 degrees Celsius temperature of water. Okay, so this is my final state of the system. This is my point 2. Now reaching from point 1 to point 2, I can do two things. Okay, just anything, I'm just taking an as example to make you understand that. First of all, what I can do is path 1 is that I directly take the water to 10 degrees Celsius and heat it to 90 degrees Celsius, and I reach from my initial to final state. The path 2 that I took was more interesting one. First of all, I cooled my water to 0 degrees Celsius. I just did that. I just felt like keeping my water. But then I remembered that, oh God, I have to change it to 90 degrees Celsius. Why am I freezing it out? Okay, so I just took out that water again from the freezer and then I heated it again to reach at 90 degrees Celsius. Now, what is the temperature from the initial to the final state in case 1? It is going to be 80 degrees Celsius as the temperature difference. What about the temperature difference between the initial and the final state in path 2? Again, it is 80 degrees Celsius. So the final and the initial temperature did not depend upon what I did in between to the water. Okay, whether I heated it, whether I cooled it and then heated it, it is not dependent upon that. So therefore, water, when I am talking about its temperature, well, what is it going to be? Well, it is going to be a state function. Okay, so it was not dependent upon the manner in which I heated the water from 10 to 90 degrees Celsius. Okay. So if I have now not only temperature, any property that is x. So I will be calling that x to be a state function if between two fixed states of system, that is from 1 to 2 point, the difference in the value of x, that is delta x, remains constant. That does not change. Okay. So x2 minus x1, if the property is x, at the final state the value of the property is x2, and at the initial state the property value was x1. So the difference is going to be x2 minus x1. This will be delta x, right? Now this is some definite value, and what you have to remember is that delta x1 when you are traveling from path 1 and delta x2 when you are traveling from path 2. If both of these two, they are the same, then irrespective of the path of the process, then you will be calling that to be a state function. Okay, so that is what you have to understand. The temperature, the initial and the final, whatever path I chose, the difference between the two, that remained the same. So temperature was a state function. So hence the values in the state function between two fixed states, this is independent of the path, right? And the examples of some state functions are pressure, volume, temperature, internal energy, enthalpy, entropy, etc. Fine. So now let us define the path function. So this is going to be the property of the system which depends upon the path or the manner by which the state is reached, just like we discussed the example of distance from home to school, that depended upon the path the student had to take to travel from home to school. So putting it up diagrammatically for chemistry now, that was an example from physics. Now let us talk about that in chemistry example now. So I am here at the initial state of the process. So this is 1, and this is the final state of the process, that is stage 2. Okay, so this is state 1 of the system, this is state 2 of the system, and to reach from 1 to 2 I can go from path 1 or I can go from path 2. So now supposedly if x is a path function, then between two fixed states of the system, the difference in the value of x, that is delta x, is not going to be constant now. Okay, so if I have x to be to the property at the final state of the process and x1 to be the initial state of the process, the value of the property, and delta x is going to be the difference between the two, well then delta x1 is not going to be equal to delta x2. So can I give you an example from chemistry? Yes, that is what we are going to learn in thermodynamics, but just giving you a very simple example. Okay, that I am standing over here, okay, and I have to go in a building on the second floor, right? So this is the ground level and this is going to be the second floor. So I have to reach over here. This is second floor, this is first floor, and this is ground floor. Now I have two options for that. One is that I go in a lift, and the other is that I follow the staircase. Okay, in both cases I will be going from where? Ground floor to the second floor. But when I go by a lift, I do not have to put in any effort. Okay, the lift is going to take me, right? So my work done, I can say that is going to be 0. Okay, so I have not done any work, the work is done by the lift. And if I go by the staircase, well, I will be doing a lot of work. Okay, so let that be some value of work, it is W, right? So now from ground floor to the second floor, from the initial state to the final state, what we find out is here the work is 0 and here there is some W work that is done. So this difference between state 2 and state 1 for work, this is not equal. Therefore, what would you conclude? That work is what? Work is a path function. It is a property that is dependent on the path that we will be taking to reach the final state of the system. Okay. So hence the change in the values of the path function between two fixed states is dependent on the path. Okay, and examples we have for this is work and heat. Work, I've already given you an example, and heat is an example that we will be discussing more in the further coming up lectures. Okay. So now I want to define one more term, and that is a cyclic process. That is going to be that process in which a system returns to the same initial state after a series of changes. So diagrammatically, what it would mean is I have the initial state of the system as state 1. It goes to state 2, 3, 4, and then returns back to state 1. Okay, so the starting and the finishing point of the process is the same. We call this process to be a cyclic process. For example, you started from home, you went to your friend's place to pick up your notebook, then you went to school. On the way back, you went to your coaching institute, and then from your coaching institute, you went back home. So your ending point and the starting point, the initial state and the final state, they are the same. Such a process, we call it as a cyclic process. And now what you have to remember is that the sum of changes in the value of x in a cyclic process is equal to 0. For example, the distance that you traveled from home to your friend's place was 2 kilometers. from friend's place to school was 1 kilometer. Then you are turning back from school to your coaching institute. So this is in the opposite direction. So it is minus 2 kilometer. And from the coaching institute back to home, again, this is in the opposite direction. It is minus 1 kilometer. Okay. So when you reach home, your displacement is 0. Okay, I hope this is clear. You went so many places, but you have returned back to the same point. So the displacement of yours in the whole process is 0. So the sum of changes in the value of x in a cyclic process is equal to 0. So what we can write this as, the summation of delta x is going to be equal to delta x12. Okay, so this is my final state for delta x12. So final state, initial state. Then we have delta x23. So this will become the final state. This will become the initial state. Then we have delta x34. So this is the final state. This is the initial state. And then we have delta x41. This is the final state, this is the initial state, and summing up all of these, taking account into proper the directions, taking these as vector quantities now, okay, you will be getting the value of total summation of delta x to be 0. So there is going to be no change in the value of the property. Well, what this means is, whatever is going to be the value of the property in the start, it is going to be ending up with that. Sorry. So if supposedly I have a temperature of 10 degrees Celsius, okay, and after a series of changes in the temperature, I again reach up to the point where the temperature is 10 degrees Celsius, well, that will be called as a cyclic process. So we can, in other words, say that the integration of delta x is going to be, dx is going to be equal to 0. The sum of the differential of the state function over a cyclic process is going to be equal to 0. And you have to remember the opposite way round of this discussion also. The converse of this statement is also going to be true. If we have a property of a system which, when summed up in a cyclic process, always becomes 0, the property must be a function of state or a state variable. For example, when I said displacement, displacement was a state function. But what about distance? Right? So if I talk total distance, if I do, it was 2 kilometers, it was 1, 2 and 1. So the total distance I traveled was 6 kilometers. Right? So it was a cyclic process, but the value of distance did not come up as 0. So distance is not a state function, whereas the value of displacement, that came up to be 0. So displacement is a state function. Okay, so for a state function, the value in a cyclic process should be 0. If there is a property whose value is coming 0 in a cyclic process, you will be calling that as a state function. Okay, so I hope you will remember this, because this is going to be very important when we are going to discuss the various processes. Now, as we are learning some terms that we are going to use in thermodynamics, there is one more term that I want you to learn, and that is thermodynamic equilibrium. Okay, so if the macroscopic properties of the system in various phases do not change with time, the system is said to be in thermodynamic equilibrium. What this means is that supposedly I am standing over here at point A, right? I move one step ahead and reach up to point B. And then I go back to point A. Then I go forward again, and then I go backward again. So with time, what you would say is that I am not changing my position. I am remaining where I am. So whenever the properties are going to be such that we feel that they are not changing with time, then we call that system to be in thermodynamic equilibrium. And whenever there is going to be a system in thermodynamic equilibrium, we are going to see simultaneously three types of equilibrium. First is going to be a thermal equilibrium. Thermal equilibrium means that there is going to be no net flow of heat from one part of the system to the other. The temperature of the system remains uniform throughout the system. So what this means is that it is not that heat is not going to flow. Okay, so here I have a system and I have surroundings. So there is heat going outside from the system to the surrounding, and equal amount of heat is going to enter into the system from the surroundings. So heat flow is taking place, but no net flow of heat is going to take place. Okay, so if there is some 10 joules of heat going out, 10 joules of heat is going to be supplied to the system. So net amount of heat that the system is gaining is going to be 0. Then we say it is going to be a thermal equilibrium. Then we have a mechanical equilibrium. So mechanical equilibrium is going to be when no mechanical work is done by one part of the system on the other. And this is when we are going to see that the pressure remains constant throughout the system. Okay, so when temperature remains uniform, we call it as a thermal equilibrium. When pressure remains constant, we call it as a mechanical equilibrium. And the next we have is a chemical equilibrium. The composition of the various phases in the system, they do not change with time. We will be calling it as a chemical equilibrium. So it would be better that we discuss more of this in the upcoming lectures. You just have an introduction to the term. Okay, so what I mean by saying a thermodynamic equilibrium is going to be when we have three types of equilibrium: thermal equilibrium, no temperature change; mechanical equilibrium, no pressure change; and chemical equilibrium, no composition change. Okay, so I hope you will remember this. So finally, to conclude, we have studied thermodynamic properties. A system can be defined by determining the measurable properties. And what are measurable properties? These are going to be temperature, pressure, volume, amount of the substance, that is the number of moles of the substance. So these all are measurable properties, and we can define a system using these measurable properties, and such properties we call them as thermodynamic properties. Additional quantities like work and heat, we are also going to discuss them in our lectures on thermodynamics. These are not state variables. Okay, so these are not state functions. You have just now learned the example of work being a path function, not a state function, but we also regard them as thermodynamic properties because they are frequently used in the study of thermodynamics. Okay, so thermodynamic properties, essentially the properties we are saying, these are state function. But when we talk about work and heat, they are not state function, they are path function, but we just consider them to be a part of the thermodynamic properties because we use them so frequently in the study of thermodynamics. Clear? No confusion, I think. Now the various functions that we are going to study in our lectures is going to be internal energy, which we are going to represent by the symbol U or E. Entropy, symbol is going to be S. Enthalpy, the symbol we will be using is H. Gibbs free energy is G. Helmholtz free energy or work function we will be representing by A. Chemical potential is mu. Heat capacity at constant pressure is Cp. Heat capacity at constant volume is Cv. And these are the various formulas that we are going to use for them. But you will not understand anything at the present moment. But when you will be revising your concept, you will be understanding about all of these. Okay, so these are the various state functions that you are going to study in the lectures on thermodynamics.
So that would be all for this lecture. I hope you enjoyed your learning with me. You understood so many interesting things today and are keen to learn the next one. So see you again. Have a nice day. God bless you.